The arrogance of the Galactic Empire. The Galactic Empire ruled the stars with an iron fist. Their ships were massive, their armies unstoppable, and their technology unmatched. They believed they were invincible, the masters of the galaxy. No one dared to defy them, and no one could stand in their way, or so they thought. On a small, peaceful Earth colony named New Hope, people lived simple lives. They worked hard, laughed, and dreamed of a better future. They were farmers, teachers, and builders. They had no weapons, no army, and no desire for war. But they valued freedom and justice. When the Empire arrived, they came with a show of power. Their warships hovered in the sky, casting dark shadows over the colony. The Empire's commander, General Korath, stood tall on his command ship, looking down at the tiny colony beneath him. He wore a dark uniform with medals shining on his chest, his face cold and emotionless. "They dare to protest," Korath sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "How foolish." A young officer beside him hesitated. "Sir, they are unarmed. They are just civilians." Korath's eyes narrowed. "They are insects, and insects must be crushed before they become a problem." Down on the colony, the people stood together, holding signs of peace. They wanted to be heard. They wanted to live freely without the Empire's heavy taxes and harsh rules. They believed they could appeal to the Empire's mercy. But mercy was not in Korath's nature. He saw their peaceful protest as an insult, a challenge to his authority. His pride was wounded, and his arrogance blinded him to their humanity. "Fire on them," Korath ordered coldly. The young officer's eyes widened. "But, sir, they are defenseless." Korath's face twisted in anger. "Are you questioning my order?" "And no, sir." The officer quickly obeyed, giving the command. The Empire's warships aimed their weapons at the colony. In a flash of light, energy beams rained down, destroying buildings and scorching the earth. The people screamed, running for cover, but they were no match for the Empire's firepower. Korath watched from above, his face showing no emotion. To him, this was just another lesson in obedience, another example of the Empire's power. He saw himself as a god, punishing those who dared to defy him. When the smoke cleared, the colony was in ruins. The peaceful protesters were gone, their voices silenced forever. Korath turned away satisfied. "Let this be a warning to the rest of the galaxy," he declared. "Defy the Empire, and you will face the same fate." The Empire's ships left as quickly as they came, disappearing into the stars. They believed their power was absolute, that no one could challenge them. But they were wrong. Far away on Earth, news of the massacre reached the human leaders. Mothers wept for their lost children. Fathers clenched their fists in rage. The people of Earth mourned their fallen brothers and sisters, but their sorrow soon turned to anger. The Empire had made a grave mistake. In their arrogance, they believed Earth was weak, too fearful to fight back. They never imagined that humans could strike with such fury. Hidden in the depths of space, a fleet of 500,000 dreadnoughts lay waiting. Massive warships built in secret, equipped with the most advanced technology Earth had ever created. They were silent, hidden from the Empire's eyes, waiting for the moment to unleash their power. Earth's leaders stood united, their faces hard with determination. They knew what they had to do. They could not let the Empire's cruelty go unpunished. They could not let the innocent lives lost be forgotten. They would answer the Empire's arrogance with overwhelming force. General Korath believed his victory was complete. He laughed at Earth's silence, mocking them as cowards. He continued his conquest across the galaxy, blind to the storm that was coming for him. He had no idea that Earth's vengeance was already on its way, and when it arrived, it would shake the stars themselves. The massacre at New Hope spread like wildfire across the galaxy. News channels reported the tragedy, showing images of the ruined colony and the innocent lives lost. The Galactic Empire broadcasted their victory, using it as a warning to all who dared to resist. They believed fear would keep the galaxy in line. But fear was not the only emotion their actions ignited. On Earth, it sparked something far more powerful: rage. In the Grand Hall of the United Earth Council, leaders from every nation gathered. The atmosphere was heavy with sorrow and anger. Pictures of the fallen were displayed on giant screens, their faces frozen in time. Mothers, fathers, children, all wiped out in a heartbeat. Commander Amina stood before the council, her face stern, her eyes blazing with fury. She was known as Earth's strongest military strategist, respected and feared by allies and enemies alike. But today, she was more than just a commander. Today, she was the voice of justice. "They killed our people," she began, her voice echoing through the hall. "Not soldiers, not rebels, but innocent civilians. They believed we would bow our heads and accept their tyranny. They thought we were weak." Her fists clenched, her body trembling with controlled anger. They were wrong. A murmur of agreement rippled through the council. Heads nodded, faces hardened with resolve. A senior councilman stood up, his old eyes filled with sorrow. "They took our children. They must answer for this crime." Another leader rose, her voice shaking with grief. "We trusted them. We believed in peace, and they repaid us with bloodshed." Commander Amina's gaze swept across the room, seeing the pain and anger in every face. She knew what they wanted. She felt it burning in her own heart. "They call themselves invincible," Amina continued, her voice cold as steel. "They believe their empire is unbreakable, but they do not understand what they have awakened." She paused, letting her words sink in. "They have challenged the wrong species." A hushed silence fell over the hall. Every eye was on her, every ear hanging on her words. Amina's voice grew sharper, stronger. "For too long, we have remained silent. For too long, we have hidden our strength, choosing peace over war. But the time for silence is over." She turned to the giant screen behind her, which lit up with the image of Earth's hidden fleet minus 500,000 dreadnoughts, each more massive and powerful than anything the Empire had ever seen. Their sleek, dark hulls gleamed with advanced technology, their weapons capable of leveling entire planets. Gasps filled the room. Some stared in awe, others in shock. No one had known about this fleet. It was Earth's greatest secret, a weapon built not for conquest, but for protection. For moments just like this. "They think we are helpless," Amina continued, her eyes blazing with determination. "They see us as insects to be crushed, but we will show them the power of humanity. We will make them understand that we are not weak. We are not afraid. We are survivors, and we will not rest until justice is served." A roar of approval erupted from the council. Fists slammed on tables, voices shouted in agreement. The decision was made. Earth would strike back. Amina turned away, her face set in a grim expression. She knew the cost of war. She knew the lives that would be lost. But she also knew this was necessary. The Empire needed to learn a lesson they would never forget. As she walked out of the hall, her second-in-command, Captain Rice, fell in step beside her. "The fleet is ready, Commander. Just say the word." Amina's eyes were cold, her voice steady. "We move at dawn. Make sure every ship is prepared. I want them to see our power before they even realize we're there." Rice nodded, his face serious. "And General Korath." A shadow crossed Amina's face at the mention of his name. She remembered the images of the ruined colony, the lifeless bodies of children, the devastation he had caused. "Leave him to me," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "I will make him answer for his crimes." Rice looked at her, seeing the pain and fury behind her eyes. He knew better than to argue. "Understood, Commander." As they walked toward the command center, the stars glittered outside the window, unaware of the storm about to be unleashed. The Empire believed they were untouchable. They thought they were safe, far beyond Earth's reach. But they were about to learn the truth. They had awakened the wrath of humanity, and nothing would stop Earth's vengeance from tearing through the stars. The silence of space was shattered as Earth's hidden fleet began to move. One by one, the 500,000 dreadnoughts came to life, their engines roaring with power. They were colossal war machines, each one a fortress armed with weapons that could tear apart moons. Their dark hulls gleamed under distant stars, reflecting the cold determination of the humans who commanded them. In the heart of the flagship, HFY Vengeance, Commander Amina stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the massive display screen before her. It showed the vast expanse of space, the distant stars twinkling like diamonds. But her eyes were focused on one point, the Empire's capital world, Tyrion Prime. Captain Rice approached, his face tense. "All ships report ready, Commander. The fleet awaits your orders." Amina's face was calm, but her eyes burned with purpose. "Good. Set course for Tyrion Prime. Maximum speed." The bridge crew moved swiftly, their fingers dancing over control panels. The hum of engines grew louder as the massive fleet began its march across the galaxy. Rice glanced at Amina, concern flickering in his eyes. "Do you think they're ready for this? The Empire is powerful and ruthless." Amina's jaw tightened. "They showed us no mercy. They slaughtered our people without hesitation. They must learn that their actions have consequences." She turned to face Rice, her voice cold as steel. "We are not just fighting for revenge. We are fighting for justice, for every life they destroyed." Rice nodded, respect and admiration shining in his eyes. "Understood, Commander." The fleet moved silently through the void, their presence undetected by the Empire's sensors. Earth had spent centuries perfecting stealth technology, keeping their strength hidden from prying eyes. They had prepared for this moment, knowing that one day they might need to defend themselves from a threat far greater than anything on Earth. In the Empire's capital, General Korath was celebrating his victory. He stood in his grand palace, surrounded by loyal officers and nobles who praised his strength and cunning. "They were nothing more than insects," Korath boasted, his voice echoing through the hall. "Weak and foolish. They dared to defy us, and now they are nothing but ashes." Laughter erupted from his audience, their faces twisted with cruel delight. They had watched the destruction of New Hope with amusement, enjoying the suffering of those they considered beneath them. Korath raised his glass, his eyes gleaming with arrogance. "Let this be a lesson to all who challenge the Empire. None can stand against our might." But even as he spoke, his words were carried away by the cold winds of space, the winds that brought Earth's fleet closer to his doorstep. On the HFY Vengeance, Amina watched the live feeds from spy drones orbiting Tyrion Prime. She saw Korath laughing, saw his officers cheering his cruelty. Her fists tightened at her sides, her anger boiling within her. "They celebrate the murder of our people," she whispered, her voice shaking with rage. "They have no honor, no soul." Captain Rice watched the same feed, his face darkening. "They think they're invincible. They have no idea what's coming." Amina's eyes were cold, her voice deadly calm. "They will soon learn." She turned to her crew, her posture commanding respect. "Begin jamming their communications. I want them isolated. No warnings, no chance to call for help." "Aye, Commander," the communications officer responded, her fingers flying over the controls. The Empire's capital world continued its celebrations, oblivious to the doom approaching at unimaginable speed. The skies above Tyrion Prime were clear, the stars shining brightly. But soon, they would be blotted out by the shadows of 500,000 dreadnoughts. Amina stood tall on the bridge, her presence radiating power and authority. "Open a channel to the fleet." The display screen flickered, showing the faces of Earth's greatest warriors. Commanders, admirals, and captains, all ready to follow her into battle. They looked to her for leadership, for strength. Amina's voice was strong, unwavering. "We fight not just for revenge, but for justice, for the innocent lives they destroyed, for our fallen brothers and sisters. The Empire believes they can kill without consequence. They think themselves gods. Today, we prove them wrong. The faces on the screen grew fierce, their eyes burning with determination. Fists clenched, jaws tightened. They were ready. Amina took a deep breath, her gaze never wavering. We will rain fire upon their world. We will shatter their illusion of power. We will show them the true strength of humanity. She paused, her voice dropping to a deadly whisper. We are Earth. We do not forgive. We do not forget. And we do not back down. The fleet roared with approval, voices echoing across the communication channels. They were ready to fight, ready to avenge their fallen. Amina's eyes locked on the image of Tyrion Prime, her voice steady and cold. All ships, prepare for assault. On my command, we bring justice. The stars seemed to tremble as the dreadnoughts charged their weapons, power surging through their massive cannons. The skies above Tyrion Prime would soon be filled with fire. The Empire's arrogance had blinded them to the fury they had awakened. But that was about to change. Earth was coming, and they were bringing hell with them. On Tyrion Prime, the capital of the Galactic Empire, the atmosphere was filled with celebration. Grand fireworks painted the night sky with vibrant colors, reflecting off the golden spires of the Imperial Palace. The streets were alive with music and laughter as citizens danced, unaware of the dark shadows approaching from the depths of space. Inside the palace's grand hall, General Koreth stood at the head of a massive banquet table, his chest puffed with pride. He wore his decorated armor, gleaming with medals that marked his countless victories. In his hand, he held a golden chalice filled with the finest wine from the Emperor's own cellar. He raised his glass high, his voice booming through the hall. Let this day be remembered as the day the Empire crushed the last defiance of Earth. His words were met with roaring applause from the nobles and military leaders who filled the room. They cheered, raising their glasses in celebration of what they believed to be an unquestionable victory. Admiral Voss, an old and trusted commander, leaned closer to Koreth, his voice filled with admiration. You were right to strike them first, General. Earth was nothing but a nuisance. They were too weak to defend themselves. Koreth laughed, his eyes gleaming with arrogance. Weak? They were insects. Admiral, they did not even have a fleet worth mentioning. They were primitive, backward, helpless. The room echoed with laughter. To them, Earth was nothing more than a distant, insignificant world. They had watched with satisfaction as new hope burned, as innocent lives were wiped out without mercy. Koreth took a long drink from his chalice, his eyes narrowing with contempt. Let this be a lesson to all who dare defy the Empire. We are untouchable, invincible. Meanwhile, high above Tyrion Prime, Earth's fleet moved with deadly precision. Cloaked by advanced stealth technology, the 500,000 dreadnoughts drifted closer, their weapons primed and ready. They were invisible to the Empire's sensors, their presence completely undetected. On the bridge of the ESS Vengeance, Commander Amina watched the holographic display showing the Empire's capital world. Her face was cold, her eyes focused. The sound of laughter from Koreth's banquet echoed through the communications feed, filling the room with arrogance and cruelty. Captain Rice stood beside her, his jaw clenched. They're celebrating. They don't even know we're here. Amina's lips curled into a grim smile. They think they're safe. Untouchable. Her eyes burned with determination. They have no idea what's coming. Rice looked at the display, watching the fireworks light up the sky over Tyrion Prime. They believe they've won. That Earth is too weak to fight back. Amina's voice was cold as ice. Their arrogance will be their downfall. They killed innocent children. They showed no mercy. She turned to face her crew, her voice rising with authority. Neither will we. The bridge crew moved with precision, their hands flying over control panels. Targeting systems locked onto the Imperial Palace, the heart of the Empire's power. The weapons officers reported in unison. All dreadnoughts locked and loaded, Commander. Amina's eyes were fixed on Koreth's image, his face smug with triumph. Begin jamming their communications. Make sure they can't call for help. The communications officer nodded, her fingers dancing over her console. Jamming initiated. They're cut off. Inside the Imperial Palace, General Koreth continued his speech, unaware of the silent storm brewing above. The galaxy belongs to us. The might of the Empire is unmatched. No one can challenge us. Admiral Voss laughed, his face flushed with wine. To the Empire, to victory, to victory. The crowd echoed, their voices filled with pride. But their cheers were about to be silenced. Back on the ESS Vengeance, Amina stood tall, her posture unyielding. Transmit a message to all ships. Prepare for assault. The order was sent across the fleet, thousands of captains and commanders receiving her command. Engines roared to life, dreadnoughts positioning themselves above Tyrian Prime. Their cannons hummed with power, ready to rain destruction on the empire that had once called itself invincible. Amina took a deep breath, her gaze never leaving the image of General Koreth. He thinks himself a god. Let's show him what happens when gods bleed. Captain Rice's face was fierce, his voice steady. The Empire will learn the price of their arrogance. Amina's voice was low and cold. Fire on my command. The 500,000 dreadnoughts held their position, weapons locked on their targets. Their shadows cast darkness over Tyrian Prime, the people below still laughing and dancing, ignorant of the doom above. Amina's finger hovered over the control panel, her eyes burning with the memory of the innocent lives lost. The children who had cried out for mercy, for help, and received only death. Her voice was steady, unyielding. For new hope, for the fallen, for justice. She pressed the button, her words echoing across the fleet. Fire. The night sky above Tyrian Prime was torn apart as beams of light erupted from the dreadnoughts, descending upon the Imperial Palace with terrifying speed. The celebration turned to screams as the ground shook, buildings crumbling under the force of the assault. General Koreth's laughter was cut short, his face twisting in horror as the ceiling above him collapsed. The nobles and officers ran in panic, their confidence shattered, their pride turning to fear. Amina watched in silence, her heart cold as she witnessed the Empire's downfall. There was no joy in her eyes, only a grim satisfaction. They had brought this upon themselves. Captain Rice stood beside her, his voice quiet. It's done. Amina nodded, her gaze never leaving the burning city below. They thought they were untouchable. But today, they learned the truth. Earth's dreadnoughts hovered above, their presence ominous and powerful. The Empire had mocked them, underestimated them. Now, they faced Earth's wrath. And there was nowhere left to hide. Tyrian Prime was in chaos. The grand capital of the Galactic Empire, once a symbol of power and arrogance, was now a burning ruin. Towering spires that had reached toward the sky were crumbling, reduced to rubble under the relentless bombardment of Earth's dreadnoughts. The night was shattered by the bright beams of destruction, tearing through the city with terrifying precision. Explosions echoed through the streets, their fiery glow reflecting off the once golden palace walls. Screams of panic and fear filled the air as citizens ran, their faces twisted with terror. Inside the Imperial Palace, General Koreth struggled to his feet, blood trickling down his face from a deep cut on his forehead. The Grand Hall, once filled with laughter and celebration, was now a scene of devastation. The massive crystal chandeliers lay shattered on the floor, and the golden tapestries were ablaze, their flames licking the ceiling. He looked around, his mind racing in disbelief. Just moments ago, he had been celebrating Earth's supposed defeat, boasting about his victory. But now, his empire was under attack, his city burning. Admiral Voss stumbled toward him, his face pale with shock. "General, our defenses, they didn't even react. It's like they never saw the enemy coming." Koreth's eyes were wide with rage and confusion. "That's impossible. Our scanners are the most advanced in the galaxy. How did they get past them? Voss shook his head, fear evident in his voice. They're not showing up on any of our sensors. It's like they're ghosts. Korath's fists tightened, his pride wounded. Earth was supposed to be weak. Helpless, he slammed his hand against the shattered table, the wood splintering under his strength. How could they have this power? Outside, the bombardment intensified. Earth's dreadnoughts moved in perfect formation, their weapons locked onto military installations, communication hubs, and power plants. They weren't just attacking. They were dismantling the Empire's infrastructure, piece by piece. On board the ESS Vengeance, Commander Amina watched the destruction unfold on the holographic display. Her face was cold, her eyes unblinking. She took no pleasure in the devastation, but felt no pity either. The Empire had brought this upon themselves. Captain Reyes stood at her side, his arms crossed as he observed the attack. Their defenses are crumbling. They never expected an assault like this. Amina's lips tightened. Their arrogance blinded them. They thought they were untouchable. She paused, her voice hardening. They thought they could kill children and face no consequences. Reyes's eyes burned with anger. New Hope was a peaceful colony. They didn't even have weapons. And yet, the Empire slaughtered them. Amina nodded, her expression fierce. They showed no mercy. We will show them the same. She turned to her weapons officer. Target their military command centers. Cripple their ability to retaliate. The officer responded without hesitation. Targets locked. Firing now. Beams of energy rained down on Tyrian Prime, striking the command centers with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions erupted, lighting up the night sky as the Empire's strategic nerve centers were obliterated. Inside the palace's underground bunker, Korath's eyes widened in horror as his communication screens went dark. His hands shook as he slammed his fists on the control panel. What is happening? Why can't we contact our fleets? Admiral Voss's voice was trembling. They're jamming all our signals. We're completely isolated. Korath's face contorted with rage. No, I am General Korath. I am the Empire's greatest warrior. I will not be defeated by primitives. He turned to his guards. Prepare my ship. We will fight them ourselves if we must. But before his orders could be carried out, another explosion shook the bunker, dust raining down from the ceiling. The lights flickered, and the ground trembled beneath them. Voss's face was pale. They've targeted our escape routes. We're trapped. Korath's pride shattered as the reality of his situation sank in. Earth's fleet was not just powerful. They were methodical, ruthless, and efficient. They weren't merely attacking the Empire. They were dismantling it piece by piece. Back on the ESS Vengeance, Amina watched the palace's defenses collapse. Her voice was steady, unyielding. They thought Earth would stay silent. They were wrong. Captain Rice's voice was filled with resolve. They killed innocents. They thought there would be no retribution. Amina's eyes were cold, her heart hardened by the memory of New Hope's destruction. We are that retribution. She turned to her communications officer. Broadcast our message to all Imperial channels. Let them hear why this is happening. The officer nodded, activating the transmission. Amina's voice echoed across Tyrian Prime, her words cold and clear. This is Commander Amina of Earth's 500,000 dreadnoughts. You killed our children. You showed no mercy. Now Earth has come to collect justice. Her message spread across the planet, reaching every corner of the Empire. Citizens listened in shock, their faces pale as they realized the reason behind the devastation. The Empire's cruelty had returned to haunt them. Inside the bunker, Korath's face turned white as Amina's voice echoed through the speakers. He stumbled back, his confidence shattered. No, it can't be. But there was no escaping the truth. Earth's wrath had been unleashed, and the Empire could no longer hide behind its arrogance. The ground beneath Tyrian Prime shook once more as another wave of destruction descended from the heavens. Earth's 500,000 dreadnoughts continued their relentless assault, their fury unyielding. Commander Amina stood firm, her gaze cold as she watched the Empire fall. They thought Earth was weak. They thought they were invincible. Her voice was calm, filled with determination. Today, they learned the cost of their arrogance. Captain Reyes nodded, his face hard with resolve. And the galaxy will never forget. Earth's revenge was far from over, and the Empire's nightmare had just begun. Panic spread like wildfire through the Galactic Empire. The once mighty rulers of the galaxy were now scrambling to defend their homeworld. Tyrion Prime was burning, its grand cities reduced to ashes under the bombardment of Earth's 500,000 dreadnoughts. In the underground war room, General Koreth's face was twisted with rage and fear. His hands trembled as he slammed them on the holotable, the display flickering with red alerts. They're destroying everything. Our military bases, communication hubs, power grids. We're being torn apart, shouted Admiral Voss, his voice shaking with disbelief. Koreth's eyes were wild. We are the Galactic Empire. How dare these Earthlings challenge us? How did they even get this power? Voss's face was pale. Their technology, it's beyond anything we've seen. They're invisible to our scanners. Our defense grids are useless. Koreth's pride wouldn't let him accept defeat. Order all remaining fleets to regroup, launch a counterattack, overwhelm them with numbers. Voss hesitated, his eyes downcast. General, we've already lost half our fleet. They never even got a chance to fight back. Earth's weapons are too powerful. Koreth's fists clenched. Then we will show them no mercy. Launch the Dreadstorm cannons. Wipe them out of the sky. The Dreadstorm cannons were the Empire's most powerful weapons, capable of tearing apart planets. They were the Empire's symbol of dominance, and Koreth was certain that it would turn the tide. Massive turrets rose from the surface of Tyrion Prime, their barrels glowing ominously as they charged with dark energy. The sky crackled with electricity, and the air grew heavy as the cannons aimed at the Earth dreadnoughts. Koreth's lips curled into a wicked smile. They thought they could defeat us. Let them taste the wrath of the Empire. The cannons fired, releasing beams of pure destruction. The sky turned black as the energy tore through the atmosphere, racing toward the Earth fleet. The beams were so powerful that they warped space itself, bending light as they moved. Inside the ESS Vengeance, Commander Amina's eyes narrowed as she watched the energy beams approach on the holoscreen. They're deploying their planet killers, she noted, her voice cold and steady. Captain Rice's jaw tightened. Those things can vaporize entire fleets. What's the plan? Amina's gaze was unwavering. Activate the Aegis shields. Full power. The Earth dreadnoughts responded instantly. Their hulls glowed with a deep blue light as energy barriers surrounded them, forming impenetrable shields. The Dreadstorm cannons struck the shields, creating a blinding flash. Space itself seemed to ripple from the impact. But as the light faded, the Earth dreadnoughts remained unharmed, their shields absorbing the massive energy without a scratch. Koreth's face went pale as he watched the screens in disbelief. Impossible. Nothing can withstand the Dreadstorm cannons. Admiral Voss's voice shook. Their technology. It's beyond anything we've ever faced. They're untouchable. Koreth's pride was crumbling, but his anger burned hotter. I don't care what it takes. Launch everything. I want them destroyed. Fighter squadrons roared out of the Empire's hangars, a swarm of ships rushing toward the Earth fleet. Missile salvos filled the sky, and energy beams lanced through the darkness, all aimed at the dreadnoughts. But Earth's ships moved with deadly precision. Their targeting systems were flawless, their movements perfectly synchronized. Point defense cannons activated, shooting down the missiles before they could get close. The fighters were intercepted by Earth's own interceptors, their sleek designs outmaneuvering the Imperial ships with ease. On board the ESS Vengeance, Commander Amina watched the battle with cold eyes. They're desperate. They're throwing everything they have, Captain Rice observed. Amina's expression didn't change. And they're only digging their own graves. They never stood a chance. She turned to her weapons officer. Focus fire on their Dreadstorm cannons. Neutralize them before they can recharge. The order was executed with ruthless efficiency. Earth's dreadnoughts unleashed a coordinated barrage of energy beams, targeting the massive turrets on Tyrion Prime's surface. Explosions ripped through the planet as the Dreadstorm cannons were obliterated, one by one. Fireballs erupted, sending shockwaves that shook the ground and shattered buildings for miles. Inside the war room, Korath stumbled as the floor trembled beneath him. He looked at the holoscreen, his heart sinking as he watched his mighty weapons fall. No, this can't be. His voice was weak, his arrogance shattered. We are the Empire. We can't lose. Admiral Voss's face was hollow. We already have, General. They've broken through our last line of defense. Korath's knees buckled, and he collapsed against the table. His empire was falling apart before his eyes, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Above Tyrion Prime, the Earth dreadnoughts hovered in perfect formation, their cannons glowing as they prepared the final assault. Commander Amina's voice was calm, unyielding. They wanted war. They wanted blood. Her eyes were cold as ice. They took our children. Now they will face the wrath of Earth. Captain Rice's face was grim. They thought we were weak. They thought we wouldn't fight back. Amina's voice was filled with cold determination. They were wrong. She gave the final order, her voice echoing through the command deck. Fire. The Earth dreadnoughts released their full power, beams of destruction raining down on Tyrion Prime. The ground shook as the planet's surface was torn apart, its cities reduced to dust. The Empire's capital, the heart of their power, was obliterated in an instant. Inside the war room, Korath closed his eyes as the ceiling crumbled, his final thoughts filled with regret and fear. He had underestimated Earth. He had mocked their strength. And now his arrogance had cost him everything. The transmission went silent as the palace collapsed, buried under the rubble of its own pride. Commander Amina watched the planet burn, her expression cold and distant. They thought Earth would stay silent. They thought their power made them untouchable. She turned away, her voice unwavering. Today they learned the price of their arrogance. Captain Rice nodded, his eyes hard. And the galaxy will never forget. The Earth dreadnoughts turned away from the burning world, their engines glowing as they moved toward the next Imperial target. The war was far from over, and Earth's justice would not be denied. The Empire had started this fight, but Earth would finish it. The once mighty capital of the Galactic Empire was no more. Tyrion Prime, the jewel of the Empire, lay in ruins, its grand palaces reduced to ashes. The skies were dark, filled with smoke and debris, as Earth's 500,000 dreadnoughts hovered in perfect formation, their presence a warning to all who watched. Across the galaxy, every major civilization watched in stunned silence. Their communication networks were flooded with live feeds of the destruction. The unthinkable had happened. The Galactic Empire, the supreme power that ruled with arrogance and cruelty, had fallen. And it was Earth that had brought them to their knees. On board the ESS Vengeance, Commander Amina stood tall, her cold eyes fixed on the burning planet below. The bridge was silent, the crew watching in solemn respect. Captain Rice approached her, his face grim but resolute. "It's done," he said quietly. "Tyrion Prime has fallen. The Empire's power is broken." Amina's expression was unyielding. "They killed our children. They thought Earth would stay silent." Her voice was sharp, her anger barely contained. They were wrong. Rays nodded. The galaxy watched today. They saw Earth's power. They saw what happens to those who harm our people. Amina turned to the communication officer. "Open a channel. I want every corner of this galaxy to hear Earth's voice." The officer's fingers danced over the console. "Channel open. Commander, every major network is linked. They're all listening." Amina stepped forward, her face cold and determined as her image was broadcast across the galaxy. Her voice was calm. but her words carry a powerful message. This is Commander Amina of Earth's fleet. Today, the Galactic Empire has fallen. They thought Earth was weak. They thought we would be silent. Her eyes narrowed. They were wrong. She paused, her gaze piercing. They took an innocent child's life. They believed their power made them untouchable. They believed Earth would bow before them. Her voice grew colder. They miscalculated. We came for justice. We came for retribution. And we will continue to come for any who dare harm Earth or its people. Across the galaxy, leaders watched in stunned silence. Civilizations that once mocked Earth's supposed weakness now trembled at the sight of the dreadnoughts. Amina's voice echoed with unwavering resolve. Let this be a warning. Earth does not seek conquest. We do not seek domination. But we will not tolerate cruelty. We will not tolerate injustice. Her eyes were cold as steel. You will leave Earth in peace. You will respect our people, or you will face the same fate as the Galactic Empire. She turned to the communication officer. End transmission. The screens across the galaxy went dark, but the message lingered. Fear rippled through the Galactic Council. They had underestimated Earth, and now their entire political landscape was shaken. Allies of the Empire distanced themselves, terrified of Earth's wrath. Enemies of the Empire saw a new power rising and wondered if Earth would bring order or chaos. On the ESS Vengeance, Captain Reyes exhaled slowly. The galaxy will never look at Earth the same way again. Amina's face was stern. Good. Let them remember this day. Let them remember what happens when you hurt an innocent child of Earth. Reyes's voice softened. What about the survivors? What about the civilians? Amina's expression softened for the first time. We are not monsters. Deploy humanitarian aid. They will know the difference between Earth's justice and the Empire's cruelty. Reyes nodded, relief washing over him. Yes, Commander. The dreadnoughts shifted formation, some descending toward the ruined cities to provide aid and restore order. Earth's power was unmatched, but their humanity remained intact. As the fleet moved away from Tyrian Prime, the galaxy began to whisper of Earth's justice, of a power that could not be challenged, of a people who defended their own with unmatched fury and unwavering compassion. Earth had spoken, and the galaxy would never forget.